first time in 113 races, the checkered flag for him.
Kimi Räikkönen, the most astonishingly calm. He's only 23 and he just doesn't fear anybody. And Kimi Räikkönen wins on the streets of Monte Carlo.
Ball in the USA.
Picture a Formula One champion who acted like he didn't care, dodged the spotlight, ignored the PR script, and still beat everyone to a world title.
All-time records. Räikkönen for the second time in his career wins. Sideline. What a move! Just doesn't fear anybody or anything.
As a winner, Kimi Räikkönen wins the US.
That's Kimi Räikkönen, the Iceman. He looked ordinary from the outside, but behind the wheel and in life, he lived entirely on his own terms. In doing so, he convinced the world he was just another racer. The truth, he was anything but.
Oh man, he is a phenomenon. Absolutely nothing.
Kimi Mattias Räikkönen came into the world in 1979 in Espoo, Finland. He grew up in a modest, working-class household. His father, Matti, laid roads for a living, while his mother, Paula, worked behind a desk. Money was scarce, yet the family poured what they could into giving both Kimi and his older brother, Rami, a shot at racing. The sacrifices were real. At one point, the Räikkönens even put off building an indoor bathroom just to keep Kimi's racing dreams alive. Rami tried his hand at motorsport too, but his path stayed close to home. Kimi's, however, quickly started to stretch far beyond Finland. By age 10, he was already making waves in karting, and by 15, he was racing internationally. His first outing abroad came in Monaco, where, in true Kimi fashion, he refused to quit even when his steering wheel broke mid-race. Instead, he held it up to alert his mechanic, all while still driving. It was an early glimpse of that calm, unshakable temperament that became his trademark. Back home, Finland's compulsory military service called, and at 19, Kimi found himself living a double life. Soldier during the week, racer on the weekends. The contrast was striking, but it only reinforced his image as someone who never played by the usual script. From the beginning, he wasn't the polished, media-friendly type. He was quiet, clipped in his words, sometimes answering with no more than a grunt. Those around him sensed he was cut from a different cloth, detached on the surface, yet hiding a focus and composure that would one day take him to the very top. Jump ahead to 2001.
Kimi Räikkönen, the undoubted sensation of this year's Grand Prix season.
Sauber stunned the F1 world by handing a seat to a 21-year-old Finn who had barely 23 car races under his belt. To many, it looked like a gamble. Even team boss Peter Sauber admitted he was betting on raw speed instead of experience.
Kimi war fokussiert, außergewöhnlich fokussiert. Ich habe so etwas vorher nie erlebt und auch nachher nie erlebt.
But to Kimi, it was nothing more than another weekend of racing. His debut in Australia became legend before the race even started. While most first-timers were filled with nerves, pacing around or glued to telemetry, Kimi was spotted asleep under a table half an hour before lights out. Then he climbed into the car and coolly brought it home in 6th place. That nap told the whole story.
And he'd literally fall asleep in the back of the truck, and they would wake him up, put his helmet back on, he'd go out, set a blistering lap time, come in, give some information on the car, and then go and fall asleep again.
Kimi wasn't scared. He just woke up and drove like it was no big deal. By 2002, McLaren swooped in to replace Mika Häkkinen with Räikkönen. It was a massive step up and the pressure was huge, yet he opened with a podium in Australia.
Welcome to the club. How was your first podium?
Oh, it was good. Of course, the podium is always good, but it was quite a difficult race.
And added 3 more podiums that year, finishing 6th overall. Not bad for a so-called gamble. 2003 was when the myth of the Iceman really took shape. Early podiums turned into a crushing first victory in Malaysia.
Kimi won with consummate ease and control, eventually crossing the line 40 seconds ahead of Rubens Barrichello's Ferrari.
And it wasn't an ordinary win either. He won by nearly 40 seconds. Also, all year long, he was the only driver who
Räikkönen then takes Michael Schumacher,
consistently kept Michael Schumacher's dominant Ferrari in check, missing the world championship by just 2 points. On track, he dazzled with his performance. Off it, he baffled journalists with his cold persona. Räikkönen gave monotone, one-word interviews.
But then I was hoping to finish in top 10, and of course on the first couple of races, if you finish the races, you never know where.
Refused to play the media game and partied whether he won or lost. His cold exterior earned him the nickname Iceman.
As the Iceman.
And he wore it perfectly. In 2004, McLaren let him down with a car that broke more often than it finished. But at Spa, he reminded everyone of his class. Starting from 10th, he carved through chaos and beat Schumacher to the flag, his only victory that season.
Kimi Räikkönen, and he's known as the Iceman. Belgian Grand Prix, a magnificent win for Kimi Räikkönen. Well done to him.
but a powerful statement of what he could do. 2005 was dominance. He was the outright fastest man on the grid, collecting 7 wins.
Formula One race, Räikkönen is under real pressure. There goes the tire, let's go.
But repeated mechanical failures cost him the championship. Still, his Suzuka drive went straight into F1 folklore, charging from 17th on the grid and snatching victory on the last lap from Giancarlo Fisichella. By 2006, the story hadn't changed. Brilliance from Kimi, unreliability from McLaren. One iconic moment said it all. When his car failed mid-race in Monaco, instead of returning to the garage, he strolled to his yacht, ditched his gear, and cracked open a beer while the race carried on. Pure Kimi.
He's not even gone back to the paddock. He's got his shirt off. He's on his boat, which has the splendid name One More Toy. He's with some of his best mates from Finland who've consumed their own weight in champagne and beer while he's been off the pot.
Finally, Ferrari came calling in 2007, and this time, the machinery matched the man. He won his very first race for them, and by season's end, he delivered one of the sport's greatest comebacks. While headlines focused on rookie sensation Lewis Hamilton and reigning champion Fernando Alonso, Räikkönen quietly rose to the top and, in Brazil, sealed the World Championship.
By my calculations, we win the championship by 1 point.
The Iceman had finally conquered the sport in the most Kimi way possible. But like most great careers, the peak didn't last forever. 2008 turned messy. Errors slipped in, the car wasn't the best either, and Kimi no longer looked unstoppable. By 2009, things only got worse. Ferrari faltered, and when the season ended, they pushed him aside to bring in Fernando Alonso. Just 2 years after reaching the top of the world, Räikkönen was suddenly without a Formula One seat. From the outside, it looked like the curtain had fallen. He drifted into rallying, NASCAR, and anything else with an engine. But Formula One? That chapter seemed closed. Then came 2012. Against all expectations,
It's Kimi Räikkönen back on top.
Lotus handed him a lifeline, and in Abu Dhabi, he made it count, taking victory and delivering one of the most iconic radio lines in Formula One history. "Leave me alone, I know what I'm doing." And just like that, the Iceman was back. 2013 turned out even wilder. He kicked things off with a win in Australia,
Kimi Räikkönen wins the Australian Grand Prix.
and followed it up with a podium in Bahrain. He then turned up in Spain, and finished on the podium again. After that race, Kimi casually admitted he'd spent the past 2 weeks drinking almost non-stop. He laughed that he partied so hard he could hardly remember any of it. Only Räikkönen could pull off something like that. On and off the track, his philosophy was the same. Go flat out. But the year didn't finish cleanly. Officially, back pain sidelined him for the last 2 rounds. Unofficially, whispers in the paddock claimed Lotus couldn't keep up with his bonus clause. €50,000 for every point scored. He'd collected so many points that the team couldn't afford to pay him anymore. Turns out the only thing faster than Kimi that year was the rate at which Lotus was burning through cash. By 2014, Räikkönen was back in Ferrari red.
The Iceman is back in the hot seat. He spent 4 years in the wilderness, rallying, racing in NASCAR and driving for Lotus, but Räikkönen has returned to the scene of his...
But the spark wasn't what it once was. From 2015 onward, he settled into the role of the dependable teammate. Steady podiums, reliable consistency, but never quite in the thick of a title fight. Then 2018 arrived, and at 39 years old, he turned back the clock.
First time in 113 races, the checkered flag for him as a winner. Kimi Räikkönen wins the US Grand Prix.
12 podiums, a brilliant victory at the United States Grand Prix, and third in the championship standings. That Austin win was unforgettable, not only because it ended a 5-year wait, but because he beat the new generation at their peak. Hamilton and Verstappen, both breathing down his neck, yet Kimi held firm with the kind of calm only he could summon. The crowd went crazy. For a moment, it felt like Formula One had rewound 10 years. In many ways, it felt like his last hurrah.
Thank you. Finally.
2019 brought him full circle, back to Sauber. By then, it wasn't about chasing titles. It was about the joy of racing. Every so often, a flash of brilliance would shine through in the form of daring overtakes, reminding everyone of the champion within.
Here, Kimi Räikkönen really going for it with Charles Leclerc. 2 Ferrari-powered cars going into turn 1. Räikkönen on the inside. They're behind Verstappen, behind Norris.
By 2021, the end came in classic Räikkönen style. No parades, no dramatics, just a straightforward announcement. This is it. I'm out. And with that, he walked away as nonchalantly as he had once napped before his first Grand Prix. He retired as the most experienced driver in Formula One history, with 349 starts. Yet the essence of Kimi never changed. The unbothered Finn who did things his way, right to the finish. And maybe that's why he'll always be remembered, not only as a world champion, but as the most effortlessly cool champion the sport has ever known.